by contributing and participating in the various activities here at the Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living. As we continue to be a beacon of light in the world, I thank you all for being here. And now, I'd like to invite one more time our pastor, Reverend John Scott, and President of the Board of Trustees, to do the opening affirmative prayer. Reverend John.
Morning again, friends. All things begin and end with the infinite invisible we call God. Please join me in this opening affirmative prayer for this 41st annual general meeting of the Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living in beautiful Jamaica. Know with me now that there is but one God, one mind, one infinite intelligence, one presence, and one power. It is that which has convened this meeting. It is the chair, it is the secretary, it is every board member, it is everyone within the sound of my voice. In fact, it is anyone who has ever been through this teaching, touched this temple in any way. In fact, this one is everywhere equally, evenly present throughout all of the cosmos, and therefore present right here. So we know that the infinite mind of the infinite invisible fills our consciousness this morning with every idea we need to continue this great work begun by our beloved Reverend Dr. Elmer Lumsden. And as the baton passes, we stand, called to serve, and we say, "Here am I, send me," as we show up to the honor and glory of God, to do God's work. And we look out and behold, the fields are white unto harvest, and we are guaranteed a rich spiritual fruitage because of the work that we have been doing and continue to do to the honor and glory of God. I know this to be the truth, and I release this word to law, knowing that as it has been spoken, so it has already been fulfilled. And we give thanks that this is so, and so it is. Namaste.
Thank you, Reverend John. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the board members, and of which I have the honor of serving as the vice president. I'll begin with our president, Reverend John Scott. Reverend John, the beloved, as he's affectionately called, has been our president since 2011, and as pastor of this center, has been lovingly guiding it for the past 19, almost 20 years, Rev? 19 years, almost 20, following on the retirement of our founding minister, Reverend Dr. Elmer Lumsden. Now we are at the point of seeing Reverend John embark upon his own rewirement journey. So we are grateful for his consciousness and leadership that has brought us to this point and built on the legacy of Dr. Elmer. We know for you, Reverend John, every success as you continue on this path, and although you will not be present with us every day, you will always be in our hearts. Thank you for being. And then I'd like to introduce Mr. Dennis Chung. Dennis? Mr. Chung willingly shares his experience as a property manager of a major supermarket chain. And Dennis is a long-standing member of our community and serves both in our Ministry of Hospitality and Ministry of the Environment, LIA Ministries. Dennis, thank you for being. And we have Mr. Theo Smith, for whom I have an apology. I'll extend it at that time. But Mr. Smith, or Theo, as he prefers to be called, is an executive chef and an entrepreneur with his own catering business, Great House Caterers. He has been a member of the Temple family for over 15 years, coming up through our Sunday school and young adults workshop, and he's the vice chair of the Thriving Ministry Council. And we have Mrs. Frances Jean Barnes, a long-standing student and practitioner of the teaching of the science of mind, is an attorney at law and willingly shares her legal expertise with us in various capacities, both on the board and in our governance action team. Mrs. Janet Morris Henry, a certified professional administrator and long-standing member of staff here at the Temple, has served as board secretary since 2013. She's known for her keen attention to detail, and her unswerving devotion to service is often above and beyond the call of duty, as you see her diligently taking the minutes over there. And then we have our treasurer, Mrs. Karen Gentles. Thank you. Karen is the former director of the Knowledge Management Institute of the Dispute Resolution Foundation, an organization she served for 25 years in various capacities before her retirement in 2018. And then we have our assistant treasurer, Ms. Sonia Brown. She is a long-standing member of the Temple and has benefited, and the center has benefited from her years of experience in the corporate world and her continued commitment to serve this center. And finally, there's yours truly, Jennifer Livingston. I have been a member of the Board of Trustees and also serve as the VP since 2018. I'm a licensed religious science practitioner for the past 10 years, and I serve our center in many ways. Now I am also part of the new minister selection committee. That's just one more hat that I'm wearing. And so that concludes. She resigned. We have Mrs. Maureen Sonita Borrows. Maureen Borrows, okay. Another of our board members who lends her expertise as having been the executive director of Rise Life Management and has brought to the board her business acumen and has contributed in many ways in her service, her tenure though short. Thank you, Sanita. She also has an apology that I'll extend. She couldn't be here today. So that concludes the introduction of our VPs, and we'll move to our next agenda item, which is apologies for absence. So now formally, I'd like to extend apologies on behalf of Sanita Boros, who couldn't be here because of a family obligation. I have apologies from Mr. Theo Smith, who also couldn't be here due to other obligations. And I have an apologies from my husband, Mr. Carl Livingston, who chairs Ministry of Peace, who also could not be here because we have an important training going on right now, for which I should also be participating in that for our business, but he is representing. So if there are any other apologies for absence, please let me have that at this time. Yes, Sandy? Apologies for Elizabeth Terry. Yes, Faith? Shirley Pond. Apologies for Shirley Pond. Any other apologies? Apologies for Clive Edwards and Clive Thompson. Yes, Reverend Ann? And Paul Chisholm. Apologies for Mr. Paul Chisholm. But Mrs. Chisholm is here, his mom. Yes. Are there any other apologies for absence? Not at this time. Then I'm going to move on to item number 5.1 on our agenda. So have we all had a chance to read the minutes of the 40th Annual General Meeting, which Mrs. Morris Henry sent out by email? Have we? And so I'd like to go through the minutes for any amendments or corrections. Page 1 of 15. Page 2 of 15. Page 3 of 15. Yes, Karen? Sorry. Oh, okay. So I'll take page 4 of 15. Page 4. Mm, okay, that's fine. Page 5 of 15. And page 6 of 15. Page 7 of 15. Now page 8 of 15. Sorry. You asked me to slow down. It's because I know we were to have read the minutes beforehand. So we would have noted if there were the amendments. Are you there with me now? Page 8 of 15. And we're now at page 9 of 15. Page 10. Yes, Karen? That's fine. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Not by. Okay. Thank you. Yes. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Karen. Page 11 of 15. Page 12. Yes, Karen. No problem. Okay. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you. That's page 12. And now page 13. Page 14. Sorry, page 13. Okay. Thank you. Now, page 14 of 15. Page 14 really is the list. Are there anybody who is missing their name who are there? And page 15, the online attendance that was acknowledged. And if there are no further amendments to the minutes, can I have a motion for confirmation of the minutes? So moved by Reverend John, seconded by Karen. All in favor? Aye. Any against? Excuse me. Are there any matters arising from the minutes? Yes.
I'm not sure if this is a matter arising,
Mhm.
but I would like to recommend that the minutes be completed by the end of January to the end of February of the year following the meeting, so that whatever actions are established in the meeting, you are reminded and they can be followed up, rather than getting the minutes a couple of weeks before the AGM. So we forget what happened in the year, and we can be more proactive in getting things done.
So remember, our year starts in July.
No matter.
So,
For these minutes for the next year, we get them complete by at the latest the end of February.
okay. Suggestion noted. Are there any other matters arising from the minutes? Matters arising. There's a conversation going on the floor. Are there any matters that need to be minuted coming from the minutes? Yes.
Sandra was asking, how do you get it? Her suggestion to become an action. So there has to be a resolution.
And does have to be voted on or something?
Yeah, and it has to be voted
What's
on.
the process?
You said suggestion noted, but how does the meeting yes, we agree?
Can we do that as any other business
Yes,
item?
yes.
Yes,
So
Vinty?
you propose the motion.
Right.
But it's an action that we take into action.
Yes.
What Sandra
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
commonly in our board businesses, when minutes are done, there's an action sheet that everything that we follow up is documented on. And for the next meeting, there's a commentary box that tells you whether this which was set done was actually carried out, and if it is not, why not, and by when.
Mm-hmm.
And if we put that in place, then follow up the matters arising at a subsequent AGM. It will perfect. And your suggestion fits into this idea. So we have to create that action sheet for this meeting today. Yes, create an action, not only complete the minutes by February, but we have an action sheet. And who is to carry out the action? A name is decided. So that person can get the action sheet and know, oh, I have something to do here, let me get it done.
So perhaps we don't actually need the minutes by February. What we need is the action sheet.
Perhaps by February. Okay, suggestion. I'm going to move for that suggestion to be adopted. I'm going to do it now because we get there, it's going to be lost on us. So I'd like to move a motion for an action sheet to be So moved by Sandy, seconded, and the minutes to be sent out by February.
Only being sent out to, it's being reviewed by whoever is reviewing it.
Exactly. I have a question in the back. Christine has her hand raised. I'd like to acknowledge her. Yes, Christine. Okay, the microphone is set up front. Okay. So I will move for the action items to be sent out by February. Careful, don't carry too far. Thanks.
It's not on.
And the minutes to be ready and sent for review by the person who is proofing the minutes. Is that what we are agreeing? Yes. Okay. All in favor? Any against? That an action sheet will be done that will be sent out to everybody so that by February, and that the minutes will be sent to the person who is proofreading these minutes by February, but not to the general congregation. Okay? Welcome. Any other matter that is arising from the minutes, because really that was relating to the minutes, but not an item from the minutes itself. Karen seconded. The motion was moved by Sandy. And then I'd like to move on to the next item, which will be our presentation of the reports. And this morning, I'd like to advise that we'll be having presentations from the following reports in report form by the Sunday School, Ministry of the Environment, as well as the Secretary and the Pastor's report. On the matter of the reports for hospitality and peace, we will not have a written report presented because the period under review was when we were having the COVID-19, and so those ministries, although they were holding the high watch, was not actively operating, so we're not going to be taking a report from them. We will just know that they were keeping consciousness for the Ministry of Peace and of Hospitality due to the COVID-19 restrictions. Okay? So I'd like to invite this morning the Sunday School report is usually the first report that's up. And while we are waiting, I think Reverend Ann just got up. Ministry of Environment, are you ready with your report? No. You don't have a written report? Not yet? All these reports, as we know, were due from Mrs. Morris Henry, remind me. Reverend Ann? Oh, she went to take a call? Yes. Okay. In the meantime, while we're waiting on these reports, is our video presentation queued up? Because I'd like to keep this meeting moving. Vance? Right.
Reverend Ann is here.
Oh, Reverend Ann is here? Reverend Ann, I was asking for the Sunday School report. Are you doing Church Without Borders?
Yes.
So could you present those two reports for me now? Oh, I'm very very sorry.
So that is what came in.
Reverend Dan is filling in for me as the practitioner on duty for prayer after service prayer duty. I tell you.
You talked about your many hats.
My many hats. Sorry.
Good morning, everyone. And this is our report from the Sunday School for the year July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. The highlights of the year in review are as follows. For the year under review, our Sunday School and young adults met on alternate Sundays. We had up to 12 young people who formed the core of our young adult workshop. And they consistently made the effort to attend our sessions, and up to 6 in the preteens group, who thanks to parents regularly attended our Sunday offerings. We continue to utilize the Centers for Spiritual Living themes in the lessons for the junior school, whereas the young adults continue to shine in the area of providing affirmations for the daily blessing, which is sent to all temple members by email. We thank our teachers who go beyond duty requirements to provide instruction for our youth. Reverend Ann Shand, Miss Laura Lee Jones Jr.'s, Miss Carmen Clark, Mr. Lawrence Suko, Mr. Steve Golding, Tony K. Dawkins, Chris Jackson, and young adults themselves who continued to serve throughout the year in review. We gave our blessing to Auntie Carmen in January of this year from being the active facilitator of the Young Adult Workshop, and welcomed Tony K. and Chris. Our gratitude to the parents, grandparents, and other relatives of our children who continue to show their interest in our ministry as they take their children, preteens, teens, and young adults to Sunday sessions. And also our rehearsals for Youth Sunday, and make financial contributions for the continued facilitation of our youth ministry. Our strategic implementation process has included the active involvement of young people in every step of the planning and execution steps. This is a necessity for church growth. We must move towards immediate implementation. Challenges. We turn our focus to providing new programs to expand the membership of our youth ministry. We look forward to encouraging and enlisting our older adults of our temple family to volunteer as teaching assistants to engage, especially the young ones. Our youth conclusion. Our youth are the answer to the question of succession planning. Help us to provide the environment that nurtures and allows growing in stature and grace to the glory of God. Thank you. Any questions? Well, I have one.
For yourself.
No. Help us to provide the environment that nurtures. We now have them in the garden and in the prayer room. You will be called on to provide us with another container for our youth and also our young at heart seniors, because that is a dream from Mrs. Valerie Chuck. Am I right, Mrs. Chuck? Yes. Okay. An adult Sunday school and a youth ministry. That's what that container will be for. What you said, Dennis? A container.
I thought we were promised one with you next year.
Yes, we were promised one, but it's going to need refurbishing for the young at heart and for our youth ministry. So that is what I meant when you help us to provide the environment for the refurbishing when that container gets here. All right? What? It's that container, Mrs. Barnes. It's for the young at heart like you. So it will teach you how to do other things and other things and other things. And you can come in the days with your friends to just sit and relax. Miss, yeah, thank you. Recreation and training spaces for our young at heart. All right, okay. Can you hear, do you understand what is being provided? All right, it's a container that will house our youth ministry on a Sunday. You got that? During the week, it will also be a recreation and training space for our young at heart. That is any age. I don't call them seniors. Seniors. For yourself and your friends. Will that help you now? Does that make any sense? Okay. To help us to refurbish that container when it gets here. Well, whatever. Suppose they have extra computers at home. Cash and kind. Right. Mrs. Chuck knows about it. When you're on your way out, you can call her. She'll explain it to you. Yes, Ventura.
Sorry, there's a request that Mrs. Chuck spreads out the tree and circulates it.
She did, right, Mrs. Chuck? It's fine. Yeah, she'll resend it, and I promise I'll send it to you all. She did. Yes, Vance. Right. Persons asking questions, you are asked again to use the mic.
Or you repeat.
Or I repeat. Okay. Any other questions I may move so that I can move? Would somebody adopt it, please? Okay, fine.
May I have a motion for the adoption of the report for the Sunday school? By Ventorio? Seconded? All in favor? Seconded by Christine. Her hand went up first. And now we'll take the Church Without Borders report.
This report is from July 2021 to June 2022. The success of our Church Without Borders is founded on the love, fellowship, support, and respect that we share for each other. This year in review still demanded that we contemplated a new way for dealing with our existence as a church and as regards to our membership. Each member of this teaching which you have found favor with, we ask you to pray, call one another, send an uplifting message, and inquire if someone in this church is in need of any kind of assistance. We ask that our spiritual community engage its membership a little bit more than what we do now. We are grateful to Reverend John and the practitioners who tirelessly provide the structural framework for this ministry by visiting persons when they are able to. And I want to really, Rev, I don't know what I'm going to do without you and your car. But please let us clap the practitioners, especially Mrs. Livingston, especially Carol Campbell, and Reverend Sonia, Reverend John especially, who go out to visit persons. Can we clap them, please?
And I thank you, Mrs. Morrison, who also does a wonderful
To Barbara, yes, on our own. Barbara McLeod, Jennifer Dosedi, and Carol Charlton. Sorry, Carol, Lord of mercy, she's so quiet with it. And Mrs. Chuck. And some persons who really visit Mrs. Who not calling your name, who visit Mrs. McConnell and Aunt Thurman. So yes, the corners are being held up, but we need to, if you know something, call us at the office. If you can't go, and we try and find somebody later to do it, right? Because we know things. Just let us all, just put our hands together and our hearts together to look after our community. This is all we have. It's family for most people, So we have to do that. The platform for the Circle of Prayer on WhatsApp is a tremendous difference to the lives of many people who have had demonstrations of healing. And also for the ones who have lost loved ones. There's a little core of people in here who reach out especially to those persons who lost loved ones in the past year or so. Thank you for, you're not calling any name, but I really, really thank you for all that you have done to maintain this Church Without Borders. And let me remind us all that we live by the principle of love, and our very essence uplifts the entire world. So my gratitude to all those who have served in their own way in any capacity, and we look forward to a new year of peace and contentment. Thank you all.
Any questions?
Yes, Mrs. King.
Come. It's not our foot, it's our hand.
I'm going to leave Mrs. K alone.
What I'd like to suggest, Reverend Ann, is that what you just said a while ago was terrific. It was an earful, and it is something that the church really, really needs and appreciates. I think this should be said on the podium from time to time, so people understand and know what you want and what we are expected to do as members of the church.
Thank you, Mrs.
Please make sure, and also for the
The
what's it
honor
called?
chart?
No, yes, not only, but the container. We need the money. We need the money to do it, so we must ask for it, and you tell them what we want the money for.
When the container comes, the container has been promised to us, you know. It's not that the container is like, it has been promised. When we get it, what we'll do is ask someone to look at what is necessary and refer also to Mrs. Chuck for that dream that is in our heart.
Yeah.
And then we'll make a list. You remember how you did the kitchen? Same way, so we do.
But we must open up our mouths and say what we want.
Oh,
Because
this
we
time,
will,
look
we
here.
will get it. Look at the kitchen.
Chuck, you ever, Mrs. Chuck,
Okay, so
Mrs.
there's
Chuck is going to remind me.
Yes, okay.
So
Thank you for the suggestion.
I won't
There's a
forget,
question
and
from
thank you.
Reverend Sonia.
Yes, Reverend Sonia.
Please use the mic.
Turn it back to the other.
Share boss, turn sideways.
You don't think you can? Well, come up here.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay, just one, I'm not sure whether this fits in to outreach, but in my mind, all right.
Come up here, Sonny.
No, it's all right.
I'm not sure that this fits into outreach, but in my mind it does, because I know that people reach out to us and we reach out to them. But I would like the church to know that every Monday not without fail, except public holidays, 4 ministers pray fervently for the good of the church and whoever is out. Also, on Tuesday, 12 practitioners pray individually, just as the ministers pray individually. On Mondays, the practitioners pray individually on Tuesdays. 12 practitioners, I think, right? 12, individually.
But
Individually,
in a circle.
right? Yes, in a circle. And also that there is always the offer for persons to request assistance. I think you have heard it announced from time to time. Assistance by calling the ministers, which is going to be altered to include everybody. Not in this report, but also there is a sacred circle that is ready to pray for anybody on Tuesdays for specific requests.
Thank you. Church without borders.
Church without borders.
Okay, so can I have a motion for the adoption of the report? Church so moved by Reverend John, seconded by Karen Ford
Ford
Warner
Warner.
in the back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Ann.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Mr. Courtney Johnson, are you ready with your Ministry of the Environment report? Please go ahead.
Good morning. First, the mandate and then a simple definition of the environment. Well, the mandate of the Ministry of the Environment is to promote a consciousness of beauty within and without, outside of the sanctuary, to inspire membership and to inspire and increase membership membership, locally, regionally, internationally. Now, what is the environment? I only bring this because Reverend John is here and Reverend Michael. The simplest definition I have is this. I went with Reverend John to Maxfield Park, where they used to do interventions. And Reverend John, in introducing me, said, today I have a visitor with you, and he's called the Minister of the Environment. So what is the environment? And for those who answered that question in one accord, they simply said, our surroundings. So I just want us to bear that simple Maxfield Park definition that Reverend John did not take a note of, nor perhaps Reverend Michael, but I remembered it. Now, the main objective during the pandemic period of the Ministry of the Environment was to keep the membership, and we have a core membership, together, and therefore we conducted online meetings. But our meetings were fewer in number than those that we conducted under the neem tree previous to the pandemic. We are conscious, and I want us to bear this in mind, that we have a core membership of 12 members with at least a total of 120 years of collective and combined work experience and expertise that can be exploited if we are called upon to do so. That is why it was easy for us to contribute to the rap event that you might not have recognized, that we were significantly behind that event. We can be called upon, and we can be called upon for help in other ways. And significantly, we at the MOE are in touch with helpful persons who are not any longer attending this church. We still retain our connection with them through the Ministry of the Environment. During the pandemic period, we created an internal e-publication for the committee to contribute their ideas and be involved in their environments. Not necessarily here, but at your home and in your community. Even as they mostly stayed at home during the pandemic. The monthly e-topic included celebrating, and this is significant, the next, one of the main articles is celebrating the next 40 years. And just as an aside, you might think it's an aside or it might be too far-fetched. Please note that today is the 41st annual general meeting, November the 22nd. And coincidentally, November 27th in the year 2061, when we celebrate 80 years we have that in mind. Because when you're thinking about the environment, you have to think far-fetched. And I must tell you, by convention, we have it every last Sunday, or 18, in the month of November. So in that year, we have 14,245 days time. Now, our main in-person event of the year
is to be for the period on the review. The report should be for the period under review. So could we keep it to that? Period under review.
Oh. Our main in-person event of the year was the 17th annual staging of Labor Day at the Temple under the theme celebrating the happy return in the spirit of togetherness to our beautiful environment. fortunate are we to have had a good participation of young people under the guidance of Dr. Lilith Nelson for the day's activity in the naming and labeling of some of our trees on this property. This is not the final labeling of trees. And I must tell you that some bougainvillea and tree planting on the eastern side, adjacent to Unity of Jamaica, that was achieved. And we close the day with a seminar-style micro-presentation, and a lot of contributors to the overall success of the day. So, to be more involved and more mindful, we want to be more mindful and be more involved and pay attention. And Faye gave me this quote just to demonstrate that she was mindful. In all my years, I have never seen through my spiritual life such a raging sea of green as is to cover the temple ground by the prolific Ponciana trees. And she has impressive pictures that you can show you another time. And in the year that was, and I must tell you that I made a walk with the accountant at the end of, it was still in our reporting year, under the coolie plum tree. And she says when she thinks of abundance, it's not affirmation she makes, she comes to the property and she just rests underneath the coolie plum tree and internalize abundance. And here she is. So, we would appreciate for many beneficial reasons, and I'm recommended that we do some more walks on the ground, and significant outcomes can come. And I'm suggesting we do the walk within the inside perimeter of the ground at some time to be scheduled. Now, lastly, let the MOE stand and be counted, those who are present.
Members of the MOE, could you please stand so you can be acknowledged?
Doreen, Mr. Strong, Idel, Valerie Brown, Shima, Faye Kessler, and Dr. Lilith is not here, and Sheena Robinson is not present, and others. Eddie Pola is not here. And Lascelles, who took your picture, is present, I hope. And so it is.
Thank you. Any questions for Courtney and MOE? So can I have a motion for the adoption of the MOE report? Moved by Doreen, seconded by Carol Charlton. All in favor? Aye. Any against? Thank you, Courtney. And at this time, we're going to have our video presentation. Is it queued up and ready? We promised that we would share with you the video that was done by the new Minister Selection Committee of the Temple that was sent to Centers for Spiritual Living.
Jamaica, the largest English-speaking island in the Caribbean. Situated 600 miles south of Florida, the island is a major tourism destination with pristine white sand beaches, natural attractions, delicious cuisine, and rich cultural offerings. Of the 3 million people who call Jamaica home, the majority is of African descent. There are also some Chinese, Indian, Lebanese, Caucasian, and Jews who bring to life our national motto, out of many, one people.
Kingston is the capital and largest city of Jamaica, where most social and economic activity take place. It is the heartbeat of entertainment, sports, and culture, and is the home of the Temple of Light, Center for Spiritual Living.
Nestled in one of the most valuable real estate districts in Kingston, the Temple of Light sits on 2.5 acres of flowering trees and beautifully landscaped grounds, providing an oasis of peace, beauty, and serenity in the heart of the city.
Our meditation garden, Tranquility, is a popular venue for weddings, while our garden labyrinth provides a space for spiritual centering, contemplation, and prayer. The main building houses our sanctuary, prayer room, book room, offices, classroom facilities, and other amenities. Founded on July 1, 1981, the Temple of Light has grown from a group of 12 at its inception to a membership of over 250 spanning all age groups. Some members have been attending since the temple's beginning, and it is not unusual to find 3 generations of family members attending our Sunday morning celebrations.
Our members are supported by our senior minister, an assistant minister, 2 staff ministers, 12 licensed practitioners, 3 full-time staff members, and a host of volunteers. Our Love in Action ministries empower and connect our community and gives members the opportunity to find a place of service that feeds their passion. Whether to reach out to absent members to offer loving engagement and prayer support in the Ministry of Goodwill, to support members to understand and live the science of mind in the
are we having some flow issues here? Internet? So we're having a little technical difficulties due to bandwidth. If you're using the internet at this time, if not, so as not to sit here while we wait for that to come up, I'm going to move along to the next report that we would like to share with you, and that's from the Thriving Ministry Council. I will invite Sandra to come. It should be a brief report, but also under that, once you're finished, Sandy, I'm going to ask, you were all sent an email with the new organization structure. Mr. Arena, I'll come to you, but I'm just saying what's going to happen while we wait on that video. That we will then ask Doreen to come to briefly take questions on that structure that was emailed out, a proposed structure. Yes, Vic? Okay. Okay. TK, is there?
It's currently a private video, so only persons in the specific link will be able to see the video. Well, I guess after today we can. It can be made public after this.
She can be made public after this showing. We wanted to show it to you first here. Since we're having that technical difficulties, then we will open the link for you to be able to see it, sir, on YouTube. Sandy, please come for your TMC report. This is not what you're asking for, Reverend Ann. Can you get a copy of the thing for Vinty? You'll get it. Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. The video is the what we created to share our center with the world. And that video is that which has been circulated to persons across Centers for Spiritual Living globally. Huh? Ah, yes, and unity, because a minister can come from either the CSL community or from unity trained by CSL. In other words, a person will go through a process and be eligible for to be minister here. Okay, so very, very briefly, because I know Doreen is going to come and she's going to speak a lot about what I'm saying, but from July 2021, we met in an AGM to look at the new vision and strategic plan, and it was presented and approved and adopted. Many of you may have taken time to read the full document, which is available in the book room, and you notice that our strategy embraces plans that are, as Lascelles Dixon noted, are both short, mid-term, and long-term. The strategic planning implementation process was convened to help with the facilitation of that implementation, and was led by Mrs. Elizabeth Terry and Mrs. Karen Ford Warner. Mrs. Ford Warner had to demit because of personal issues, but Elizabeth has been meeting every other Monday to discuss implementation. And one of the greatest areas of focus of that plan so far has been the development of a governance structure. And Doreen will be sharing that with you in a little while. And it is that which will help us to move from a pastor-centered ministry to a more mission-centered ministry where there'll be more active decision-making by the community. Some of the work of the quadrants continued, and one of the major activities was the coming out of the Raising Consciousness quadrant was a 12-week prosperity adventure, which took place earlier this year from January 12th to March 30. It attracted some 37 participants and netted some $950,000, most of which went towards the operational expenses of the temple. There's also ongoing work on Reverend Elma's materials, to publish her works. And some members of the organization, Quadrant, has been driving that process to digitize and typeset her sermons. I have Karen Gentles, who is assisting in that typing. And once all the typesetting is complete, it will take an estimated $3 million to publish. It is intended that a foundation, the Reverend Elma Foundation, will be established as the vehicle through which the funds will be raised. Now, very quickly on the minister selection process, we met with our members, and based on input, we created a profile of the temple for potential candidates. Now, that profile includes our administrative, financial, cultural, and facility-related data to give those potential candidates a sense of the day-to-day operations. I'd love us to see the end of the video, because we were very proud of it. It really captures who we are, what we do. Input from the community also helped us to generate what we call a sacred covenant and mental equivalent for our new minister. We expect that this sacred covenant that we have created will enable us to plant the seeds. In fact, we believe we already have, into the fertile soil of our consciousness. And we rest assured that the right person, as a perfect match for us, is already on their way. Just some final words, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that the Thriving Ministry Council, out of the Thriving Ministry Initiative, will become part of the management of this organization. And it will help to drive the strategic plan, particularly through the implementation process. This groups to help movement forward. I would also like to consider that simple must pay our bills, grow, and have a viable and sustainable operation. The management of our activities up to this point is done by 3 people. Our senior minister, assistant minister, and our administrator. These are our paid professional staff. The rest comes from the love, dedication, and commitment of an indefatigable community of volunteers. Oftentimes the same people spread across multiple activities, giving their time, their talent, and their treasure without question. To some, it might seem that it takes a really long time for things to get done around here. Criticism about why we are or are not doing this or that doesn't really help. We invite you instead to ask, how can I help? What can I do? We need support with our website, the completion of our database, management of this property. We had an occasion a couple of weeks ago, I think that the lawnmower had broken down and the grass was almost knee-high. And there was a question, so why is the grass so high? Why aren't you doing the lawns? You know, so we find out that the lawn, do we need a new lawnmower? What can we do to make things happen? And you don't have to be a joiner. Not everybody is a joiner. But we welcome your time, your talent, your treasure in whatever way you can. We are 100% committed to making this a thriving ministry and fulfilling our vision as a lighthouse of collective consciousness, revealing love, joy, peace, and prosperity for all. Thank you. Questions?
I see Reverend Michael has a hand raised.
When you say publish, do you mean print Dr. Elmer Longstream's writings?
Reverend Michael is asking if when we say publish, if we mean printing of Reverend Dr. Elmer's writings. To my mind, I believe that is the intention.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
You say that will cost $3 million when we need a new lawnmower. What about publishing online? That will be available to everybody.
Okay, Reverend Michael, I guess when we get to that point, I guess we will make a decision around that. Christine, you wanted to comment?
No, I'm just informing Reverend Michael that the 3 million also includes online publishing.
Okay, so the 3 million includes online publishing. Reverend Sonia?
From the back of the audience.
That's fine. Yes.
Go ahead.
I didn't want to touch it.
Go ahead, just go ahead.
Okay. Not sure why it was facing that way. I know I have a nice back, but still. I'm a little uncomfortable. I know the intention behind it. I'm a little uncomfortable by the phrase moving away from a pastor-centered to a mission-centered. It would imply to a stranger that somehow pastors don't have anything to do with the mission, okay? I don't know how it's coming across to the rest of you, but it makes me feel a little uncomfortable, and I would be happy if we had a phrase that would be more clear so that a stranger could recognize that this is a church.
Okay.
And in a church, the pastor is integral to the mission as well as the congregation at large.
Thank you, Dr. Sonia. I do get how words can communicate different meanings, and so we will visit that. But what we do mean is we are accustomed to the pastor, going back from Reverend Elmer's day, making all decisions about all matters. Now we'll have a broader, more collaborative decision making, which will include our community as well as our pastor. So we will revisit that and look at the wording of that statement.
Yes, Reverend Ann, you have a question?
No. A correction. It is not true that Reverend Elmer made all the decisions. She had a board of trustees.
Okay. Thank you,
Can
Reverend
I
Ann, for
respond
that.
to this before?
No,
Go ahead, Winty, go ahead.
Do I understand from what you've said that the board will no longer report to the senior minister? Instead, the senior minister will report to the board? Is that what you are suggesting at the moment? Because in the past, the board, the chairman of the board is the senior minister. And that twists around what is considered conventional reporting.
Okay, we're going to be sharing the governance structure in a little while, and we'll have clarity around that issue by then. But, at that point, thanks, Vinty. Just to come back to the matter that Reverend Ann raised. Yes. Dr. Elmer, she was a part of the Board of Trustees, and she was, say again? She was the chair of the Board of Trustees. Yes, this has been one of the issues that we are addressing, because in effect she would decide to do something and get it done. So we're going to have a more inclusive process. Lascelles?
I think whenever you have an organization, it's always a good thing to have an organizational structure, and that we put together on a chart, so that all can see it and all can understand what the organization is about. So I'm going to suggest.
We have completed a structure that will be shared with the meeting this morning.
Okay.
So that should have answered the question as to who report to whom.
Okay, thank you, Lascelles.
Any more questions? Can I have a motion for the adoption of the report from the TMC? Moved by Vance, seconded by Dennis Chung. Thank you. All in favor? Any against? At this point, Vance moved the motion, Dennis seconded. At this point, I was going to invite Doreen, but I've been told that we have the video downloaded again. Would you all like to have finished seeing the video before Doreen comes? I need a response.
Jamaica,
Go ahead.
the largest English-speaking island in the Caribbean. Situated 600 miles south of Florida, the island is a major tourism destination with pristine white sand beaches, natural attractions, delicious cuisine, and rich cultural offerings. Of the 3 million people who call Jamaica home, the majority is of African descent. There are also some Chinese, Indian, Lebanese, Caucasian, and Jews who bring to life our national motto, out of many, one people.
Kingston is the capital and largest city of Jamaica, where most social and economic activity take place. It is the heartbeat of entertainment, sports, and culture, and is the home of the Temple of Light, Center for Spiritual Living.
Nestled in one of the most valuable real estate districts in Kingston, the Temple of Light sits on 2.5 acres of flowering trees and beautifully landscaped grounds, providing an oasis of peace, beauty, and serenity in the heart of the city.
Our meditation garden, Tranquility, is a popular venue for weddings, while our garden labyrinth provides a space for spiritual centering, contemplation, and prayer. The main building houses our sanctuary, prayer room, book room, offices, classroom facilities, and other amenities. Founded on July 1, 1981, the Temple of Light has grown from a group of 12 at its inception to a membership of over 250, spanning all age groups. Some members have been attending since the temple's beginning, and it is not unusual to find 3 generations of family members attending our Sunday morning celebrations.
Our members are supported by our senior minister, an assistant minister, 2 staff ministers, 12 licensed practitioners, 3 full-time staff members, and a host of volunteers. Our Love in Action ministries empower and connect our community and gives members the opportunity to find a place of service that feeds their passion. whether to reach out to absent members to offer loving engagement and prayer support in the ministry of goodwill, to support members to understand and live the science of mind in the ministry of the word, or to simply offer a warm welcome on arrival for Sunday service from the ministry of hospitality. Everyone can find a place to joyfully serve while making meaningful connections.
Like many churches globally, the Temple of Light was challenged to innovate during the pandemic. We acquired the technology needed to broadcast our services, classes, and events live on Facebook, via Zoom, and on YouTube. Our monthly interview webinar, Lifeline, was one way in which we were able to support others in finding ways to thrive and remain spiritually centered.
The temple is at a truly exciting point in its development. The leadership and membership are embarking on a journey to accomplish our 2030 vision, becoming a science of mind center of excellence that is spiritually empowering, financially thriving, and delivering world-renowned learning experiences backed by state-of-the-art technology.
We welcome the minister who feels inspired to accept the baton for the next leg of this journey.
Our community stands ready to support you.
Thank you. So let me just introduce the members of that committee because I feel very proud to be a part of it. So the members are T.K. Dawkins, thank you, Sandra Cooper, Karen Gentles, Angela Elliott, Reverend Dr. Sonia Davidson. Who am I missing? Zoe Saunders, who is our chair. She's not here. She's the chair of that committee. Carol Campbell, practitioner Carol Campbell, is also a member of that committee. And as I said, yours truly, I don't know what hat I wear there, but I'm there. I think I'm representing the board. So yes, that was an awesome job done by a team of ladies, and our chief photographer was TK, who walked around with the phone and made that video herself. And Tony, and they did the reading in a studio that they rented studio time to do the voiceover. So we had the pictures and the video, and then they went into studio and did the voiceover, and boy, didn't it come together well. I'm just so proud. Clap them again. Yes, so send love to Tony for me. I think you should. Okay, so currently where we're at now with that process is that it has gone to Centers for Spiritual Living. They've put it out on the website, the listserv for ministers and ministers from Unity as well. It has gone out. And so, and a profile accompanied this video. So this isn't the only thing that was sent for them to make a decision, whoever is interested in coming. We can't share that profile with you, but we can share the video, and then you can use this to market the temple for us, so we'll make the video available to all. We're currently at the point where they're accepting applications for this open position, and so we're waiting for that. In the meantime, we're doing some other behind-the-scenes work as a committee to move the process forward till we get to the stage where eventually the congregation will be involved in the final stages of the selection. So you're not being left out, okay? And yes, you had all helped us to create the Sacred Covenant. You remember that reading that we have? We've mailed that out already. And we as a committee continue to say that every meeting we have, we end with that covenant. And we encourage you to say it as well with us because you were integral in drafting that Sacred Covenant. It was emailed out already, and it can be sent again if you'd like. Yes, Reverend Sonia? The video will be on YouTube. It's too big, right? It's a very huge video, so we're going to put it on YouTube. Now that you have been able to see it, it's no longer private, and it will be on YouTube. Yes, Christine? It's on YouTube already. There you go, guys. You can go and watch it again. Reverend Michael, you have a question?
Just a suggestion. It would be an ideal recruitment tool so that
that's the idea. You have it on YouTube and you can share it with anybody and everybody to recruit members to the temple. So we are asking you to do that and do it generously. It's not just to attract a minister, it's to attract members here to our community as well. So thank you. At this time, I'd just like to ask Doreen to come forward from the governance action team, and she'll be taking questions on that new proposed organization structure that was done. I don't know where you want to go.
I don't know how to use my so.
Okay, just go ahead.
Okay, I think it was sent out to all. The document was sent. I don't know how many of you read it. I'm not going through it. I expect that those who have gone through it have questions to ask. But let me just say that, first of all, what a wonderful place this is. Let me just say though that last year the proposed structure follows the strategic plan, which was presented last year and signed by us all. Okay? Now, the group that took that strategic plan and tried to put together actualize it, a model that could actualize it, comprises Karen Gentles, Reverend Michael, Carol Charlton, Jeannie Slow, and Fran. Good. And Jeannie Barnes. Well, Jeannie Barnes left us after a while. Now, and I'm asking those persons, if I'm answering a question and I've left anything out, please just fill it in. Okay, so you will all see that the structure has in it an organizational structure, part which addresses issues like the needs of an organization. And the needs of an organization having to do with the physical space, buildings, indoor-outdoor space, having to do with needs of technology, having to do with general operations, okay? And there was a focus on that aspect of it also, as there also was on the other areas that were outlined in the strategic plan, which were the, let me see if I can, the core ministry, including the Science of Mind teaching and the youth ministry, a membership ministry, and education and training ministry. So all of those were looked at in the overall strategic plan. One of the reasons why we did some detailed consideration of the organizational side of the structure is that we recognize that there are some specific needs that an organization has in order to be able to support the core needs of the organization. All right? And those needs have to do with income generating, so that one can support outreach, one can support the other things that are needed. Okay, so those are all built into the strategic plan. One of the things that was asked of us at some point was, there are so many people involved. Now, we need to understand that the proposal is suggesting that we call on our membership as volunteers. We as much as possible, we will do that. That is proposed that we do that. Also, that we have areas which are specific, which have to be filled by employees, either full-time or part-time. Okay, so it's a mix of people. It is not just N number of persons and they're all going to be employed. No. What else do I want to?
The leadership council.
You want to get to the leadership council? Okay. All right. Now, the proposal is that there is a leadership council which replaces the current board. And the leadership council is made up of the spiritual leader, the advisors. I don't know if you remember, how many of you remember the proposal, the proposal which came to us last year, the strategic plan. In that proposal, there were advisors from different areas of the temple. That has been maintained. So there is an advisor from the operations, which is what I just talked about a while ago. That's that group that is responsible for managing the operations. There is an advisor from education and training. All of these are sitting on the leadership council. There is an advisor from the membership group. There is an advisor from the youth ministry. From the core ministry of the temple, there is also an advisor, and also the spiritual leaders there. In addition to that, it is proposed that members from the temple who are not necessarily in a group and are an advisor in that group are invited at an annual general meeting to join the leadership council. And those can be 2 or 4 or whatever the leadership council decides is required at that point in time. It is also proposed that on that leadership council, where there are specific projects to be undertaken by the temple, one can invite temporarily for a period of time, as long as that project lives, an expert. So for instance, one might need at a period in time to have someone who has an expertise in architecture, someone who has an expertise in property affairs, in law, okay. So that is how the leadership council is made up. The proposal is also that the leader of the council be the spiritual leader, that the chairperson be nominated by the members of the council for a prescribed period, a year possibly. So the chair and the chairperson and the spiritual leader are not necessarily the same person, yes. Okay. That the invitees are elected at the AGM, that the legal advisor does not need to be a member of the Temple of Light, but rather an appointee of the council, that the finance and investment advisor, also sitting on this, does not need to be a member of the Temple of Light, but rather an invitee of the council. Can be a member, but not necessarily. That the advisory leaders selected by the Temple of Light divisions or sectors are the same advisors identified above, that we just discussed a while ago. Okay. And that the council may invite special advisors to sit in council for specific engagements and for a discrete period as needed. And these are non-voting members, would be non-voting members of the council at that point. The role of the chairperson of the council is responsible for the meeting's outcomes. He or she is an individual elected by the members of the council to exercise responsibility over the preparation and conduct of the meeting. Responsibility areas include setting the meeting agenda in consultation with the council leader, which is the spiritual leader, making sure that meetings are run efficiently and in accordance with the agenda, creating a general framework for democratic decision-making at council meetings, overall management of the conduct and outcome of the meeting. Role of the leader of the council. The leader of the council is primarily focused on the organization's mission, vision, and values, ensuring that these are fundamental to the growth and development of the Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living. The leader is instrumental in predetermining the high-level agenda of the council. Additionally, the leader ensures, as far as possible, that the council operates as an effective body, leading and guiding the well-being of the organization. In addition, the leader is responsible in the following ways. 1, representing the council to the government entities in accordance with requisite laws, or undertakes to appoint a representative to serve this function on his or her behalf. Remains cognizant of the financial needs of the organization and brings to the council related decisions and discussions thereupon. And lastly, remains attentive to the established roles and responsibilities of the council, defined below, ensuring that related matters are brought forward as situations determine. Shall I read the suggested roles and responsibilities of the leadership council? I don't need to read that? Okay. Okay. Okay, so please refer to the, is there anything that you all want to ask? Did I bring this or?
Thank you. Friends, this is following on the presentation of the Thriving Ministry Council, just to give you an update of what has come out of what we agreed at our last AGM, that these groups would get working on it. So the Thriving Ministry Council has given their approval for this governance action team. Where we are at the board level is that we have agreed provisionally to the redesign of the structure. However, it is subject to legal guidance on the matter before we can say it will be something that we will be able to fully implement and institute. So we just want you to be aware. For those of us who haven't yet looked at it, I would invite you to look at that email, review this structure, and so we can know what are the plans. Tamu was first. Yes, Tamu.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon.
Yes, Tamu.
Yes. For the non-members, is there a process for addressing conflict of interest? For this council that was mentioned, is there a process for addressing any conflict of interest, like a due diligence? So a due diligence form that they would fill out to look at if there's any conflict of interest.
The council does not yet exist, and therefore I cannot give you an answer to that question. We are
no, but in prepare.
So
well, I didn't know if that was part of the documentation.
So I'll
yes,
move it
so
to the governance
I was just
action
questioning
team.
whether that was already
there
included.
There is no council yet, remember? So you
yeah.
need to review.
No, I know there's. Yeah, I know there's no council, but I just wondered if you had considered that already. I know. Yeah, thanks.
And refer it to the governance action team. Yes, Sandy.
Is there a timeline for the decision, for the request to the lawyer and for feedback from the lawyer regarding what you want for
the document came to the board at the last board meeting last week, Thursday. And we have said, we have given our response to the action team. They now need to go forward in terms of who is the legal person they will contact in relation to our constitution. The timeline is going to be dependent on what happens with that feedback that we have communicated.
So based on feedback from the SPIP, then the board will take further action. Is that it?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll see where we go from there. Yes, Julie.
I want to address the question that Tamu asked. The advisory council is made up of these advisors who belong to groups. I can't remember what all the groups are. But, they're fine. They're all in these teams. So, and people belong to these teams. So issues that are presented in these teams to the to the teams, and the person who represents the advisor in that team takes it forward to the leadership council. So that I'm seeing that is how it's addressed.
Okay. But before that, a lawyer has to then walk us through how do we change the current
Constitution.
Yes.
And memorandum of association to fit that.
Yes.
The reason I would like to say that the board said conditionally was that if we had to say something before my departure, otherwise everything would be on hold until a new minister came. So now there is permission to go ahead to the next stage, which is getting the legal guidance on how to change the constitution, ask for the association, blah, 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 blah.
Reverend Sonia, you're at the mic.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have two things to address. One is a concern. It seems to me like it's a lot taken in the middle of an annual general meeting where you have so many other issues that are attracting your attention. I would feel more comfortable if there was a special sitting of the annual general meeting where we could look at it in detail to see AGM, right, to see what the implications are for all these changes. And I personally have a vested interest in looking at how other churches who make changes do it, to see if we're coming up with something unique to us, or whether in any way it reflects some of the, I heard Reverend John says he was part of that Centers for Spiritual Living reorganization, whether if we have looked at what they have come up with as their model to see if we could in any way benefit from their example, right? That is basically what I am thinking, because for me, I know there's a little bit of attention deficit here. God forbid, I take it back. But I do think that there is too much
So, Reverend Sonia.
for us to decide to take a definite decision at this
Reverend
meeting.
Sonia, we're not taking a decision.
I would just like to make sure.
We're not taking a decision,
No,
please.
listen, hold on. I was turned that we are acting in a little defensive, right? I have made a statement, and then I expect an answer that sounds as if it's addressing me, not as if I am being naughty to bring it up. Thank you.
Vinty, you had a question? And then Lascelles after. Denise is ahead of Lascelles. Yes, Vinty.
I am still left with some unclarity as to who is in charge of the council. Is it the spiritual leader who is at the very top and the chairman right under? Because given the roles and responsibilities of each, it seems as if you have a vertical organizational structure, the chairman, I know it's not vertical, I know it's circular, but given the roles and responsibilities of the two individuals, it seems as if the chairman is actually reporting to the spiritual leader. Can I have some clarity, please?
Okay, so we're going to take your questions, and I'm going to defer the clarity because we want to move on to the other items on this agenda. This was emailed out and then asked for persons to just review because it came under the ambit. I'm going to take the questions. The ambit of Thriving Ministry Council and would come up in Sunday's report. Okay, so that's the idea for this. No decisions are being taken here because, as you have said, Reverend Sonia, that's exactly what will happen. Once the governance team continues their work and they come back to us, we will convene the special EGM in order to make that decision. So nothing is happening here except information purposes. Is that satisfying your question? Okay. Lascelles, does that satisfy your question?
It's not so much a question as a matter of a comment. Well, first thing I like to do, I like to thank all those people who are involved in coming to where we're at now with the organization. So whatever comment I make should not be taken as something which is going to be suppressing anything. Now, we must remember that this is a church. And the first and foremost thing is spiritual growth and development. So whatever happens, whatever decision is taken, whatever structure is put in place, it must be subject to that understanding that this being a church, not a college, not a university, it's a church. And therefore, the structure and organization has to give primacy to the development of spiritual growth and development. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. So you're right on point with that. At the board, we got a little basic operational design of a leadership council, and I'm going to turn it around because at the center of it, it says God. So it is very much true that we are focusing first on spirit. So any leadership council must have at the center God. So I want you to understand that the board is right there with you, Lascelles. Nothing happens in here, no changes made until we continue to know that at the center is God. Okay. Yes, Denise, go ahead. Yes, please, quickly. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. I would like to make sure that it be noted that among all the pods that are contributing to the chairman, et cetera, that we don't, that not more than two people can only serve, or each pod should have different people on it. That's what I'm trying to say. There seems to be a lot of cross-pollination now of the same people making decisions on every single thing. And I really would like to see a rule, actually, somewhat that addressed, that a person you can only serve on one pod, possibly two.
Thank you, Denise.
So for God's sake, encourage people
to join.
They come. Excuse me, Reverend John, we do come forward. We serve for. No. There were a lot of us for 18 months that served on the thing, the planning, and I don't see a lot of them, and I don't think they've been invited to make a contribution.
No, they have. They have. I'm sorry.
But not just those people. We need more people who belong to the temple community who have not come forward, although they have been invited. Not one-on-one, I want to make.
Yes.
But say, please, we need you. So the database is being developed with the passions and skills and skill bases and so on. Will help us to see, hey, you know that Karen is a dispute resolution person. Let's ask her to.
I think the basis of all that, and I'd just like to say this to the community, and I've said it over and over, Mr. Douglas Arain pointed out 7 years ago to a little group of us that we must have friend-raising before fundraising. And until we get to know each other, till I get to know everyone and what their needs are, till we join together and come forward with friendship, that's when we will be able to serve fully. People can be intimidated by me. I look sophisticated and full of myself. But the people that have met me and the ones that know me, so I just want to really put that out. Friend-raising before fundraising.
Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to move this meeting forward by asking us to ask the Secretary to come forward with your report. Madam Secretary, it's your turn, and after which we will have the pastor's report. Yes, Mr. Arain? Okay, quickly, to the mic, sir. Come, John, come.
Oh, no. I just want to say I need to leave now. I'm actually going to see one of the members of our church who is not well. And to me, outreach is the most important thing, physically as well as spiritually. That's just the one sentence. But here's the second one. On a lighter note, after I saw that video, whoever we get as our spiritual leader should be paying us. Because, man, it looks like a vacation in paradise. And perhaps what we should remind them is there could be the 21st century St. Paul, who comes to spread the word not only in Jamaica, but the Caribbean and the African diaspora, because I think that's really a seed we can sow, that we can replicate this temple right across the region and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Yes. Madam Secretary, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Jack.
Exactly. As you know, the period covers July 1, 2021 to June 2022. Members of the board, which you have heard, all meeting of the Board of Trustees were either held by the Zoom platform due to COVID-19 or face-to-face when it was necessary. All the board meetings were chaired by Reverend John Scott, except for August and December when the board went on a break. During the year, Mrs. Sonita Burrows resigned, as under regulations, a member of the Board of Trustees cannot be part of the decision concerned with her interest in leasing the property. Financial management, statutory deductions, security service, public utilities were paid and tied to CSL. Some financial obligations for staff are still outstanding. Administration and operation. The board thanks all those persons who continue to support the church with their tithes, offering time, talents, and treasure. Membership. During the year, 12 first-time guests signed the visitors book and 6 new members were received into membership. 1 member made her transition in May 2022, Mrs. Monica Marsh. Membership fees for 2022 stood at $51, with 50 full payment and 1 part payment. Just a reminder that the year ends December 2022, so you can still fulfill your obligation to the temple. Thank you. My appreciation is extended to Mrs. Sandra Cooper, who vetted the AGM minutes. I truly thank you. Thanks also to Mr. Orlando Shimyu of Aura Digital Marketing Group Limited, who continue to be the temple email communicator, who I think is doing a great job. Conclusion. The year was very challenging, but I did my best to keep the temple afloat with my responsibilities and wish to continue to do the same. Reverend John, as you leave your position as president of the board and as my boss, you truly will be missed. Thank you for being a part of my life, and I wish you God's blessing on your new journey. Thank you.
Any questions for Madam Secretary? No? Claire? So can I have an motion for the adoption of her report? I saw the first hand. Look here, I'm looking this way. First hand, all right, I'm going to give it to Paulette. Second, Vinty hand went up in front of me. So, okay, Paulette for the adoption. All in favor? Aye. Any against? No. Okay, so we have one more report before we go to our financial report, and that's the pastor's report. Reverend John, one more time, can you bring the pastor's report?
Wow. Galatians 6, verse 9. So let us not grow weary in doing what is right, for we will reap at harvest time if we do not give up. This year, under review, July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022, began with our 40th anniversary celebration on Sunday, July 4. Our guest speaker was Reverend Dr. David Alexander, chair of the CSL Leadership Council, whose videotaped message dealt aptly with change. Members of our strategic plan innovative teams received silver pendants or tie tacks, depending whether it was male or female, in the shape of the starburst in the CSL logo. All congregants attending the anniversary service received souvenir bookmarks, and souvenir pens along with a thank you card were sent to persons who donate funds to the temple on a regular basis. To mark our 40th anniversary, congregants were invited to videotape short Thanksgiving messages, and these were posted on our Facebook page every week throughout the month of July. In addition, a collage of photographs was created by Mr. Tony Henry depicting the growth of the temple over the 40 years, and these were also posted on Facebook. Anniversary takeout lunches by Great House caterers were available on order. Our ground staff also joined in celebrating our 40th by continuing the Jamaican tradition of whitewashing the lower third of tree trunks on the property, thereby giving a sparkle to our environment. Extraordinary General Meeting. At an EGM on Sunday, July 18, the work of our innovative teams was presented and 2 resolutions were passed which allowed the innovative team chair, Mrs. Lorna Phillips, to proceed with drafting the strategic plan. Lifeline, an hour of liberty, connectivity, and laughter. Our monthly Lifeline series started in response to the stresses arising out of the pandemic, featured a guest presenter drawn from the CSL ministers overseas, as well as our own congregation. It is skillfully moderated by practitioner Sandra Cooper, with me as host. We were ably supported by a tech team comprising Vance Gardner, Steve Golding, and Theo Smith. Classes. During the period under review, we continue to offer congregants the opportunity to deepen their understanding of science of mind and spirit, as well as to enrich their spiritual journey by attending classes. The following courses were conducted by the ministerial team during the period under review. A New Positive Spirituality, Spiritual Economics, Ignite Your Life with Bible Wisdom, Spiritual Principles and Practices, Consciousness is What I Am, Mental Equivalent, Revealing Wholeness, The Lazarus Blueprint, Your Heart's Desire, This Thing Called You, How I Used Truth, Shortcut to a Miracle, and Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. In addition, we conducted a practitioner retreat on September 24 and 25, 2021. In October 2021, I also designed and presented Training for Trainers, a 10-week, 20-hour course which taught techniques in utilizing experiential learning methodology. The aim is to develop a cadre of presenters who can assist our ministers and practitioners in teaching classes, both in-house, like we do at the prison, as well as in places such as other prisons, schools, and organizations. 40th Temple of Light AGM. A highlight of our 40th AGM was the presentation by Mrs. Liz Terry, who is co-chair with Mrs. Karen Ford Warner of our Strategic Plan Implementation Process, SPIP. At this AGM, I also announced that my retirement, which I had indicated a year earlier would be in 2 to 3 years, that it would be effective on November 30, 2022. Christmas 2021 and New Year 2022. We celebrated Christmas Sunday on December 26th with our temple singers led by musical director Angela Elliott, filling our sanctuary with a tumult of joy. The Christmas tree, an annual gift from Clive Edwards and Clive Thompson, and beautifully decorated by Tina Sherman and Faye Kessler, added to the festive atmosphere of the service. Our New Year goal-setting workshop was held on January 3rd. The theme for the new year was, Behold, I make all things new in 2022. And as if to echo that intention, for the first time, our host for the service was a member of our youth group, Tyrell Creary, who did a creditable job. New practitioners. Practitioner candidates Chima Alcock, Tamu Davidson, and Yvonne Chang Oliver passed their practitioner panels with flying colors on January 29, 2022, bringing our practitioner corps to a total of 11. New Minister Selection Committee. In February 2022, a new minister selection committee, co-chaired by Ms. Zoe Saunders and Ms. Tony K. Dawkins, and guided by CSL's Reverend Julie Lobato, began the process of searching for a new senior minister. The team has produced a beautiful promotional video, which you just saw, and which I think it's already in circulation to all CSL and Unity churches worldwide. The fundraising, or as Denise said, friend-raising. The Consciousness Quadrant of our Thriving Ministry Initiative, TMI, designed and presented a highly successful spiritual prosperity workshop spearheaded and conducted by Ms. Sandra Cooper, Denise Williams, and Liz Terry. Guest presenters included CSL's Dr. Michelle Medrano from the Mile High Church in Colorado, and temple members Mr. Douglas Arain and Ms. Margaret Arain. Although the original intention of the organizers was to raise funds for a computer for the Sunday school, they generously agreed to contribute the proceeds of this initiative to alleviate the cash flow challenge the temple was facing due to the fall in revenues caused by the pandemic. In June 2022, the Basil Dawkins play Hide Your Husband also raised funds which were earmarked for and were used to repair the container which houses the Sunday school. The container has subsequently been rented to a commercial entity which will bring much needed income. The temple has been promised another container which should become available in 2023. And in the meantime, the children are utilizing the prayer room as well as the temple garden on a Sunday morning. Pastoral duties during this period included counseling, both in person and online, teaching meditation, weddings, baby blessings, and home visits. Conclusion. As my tenure as spiritual leader comes to a close, I wish to thank our Board of Trustees, my ministerial team, practitioner corps, the staff and congregation for their support over the years. I couldn't have done it without you, and I want you all to know that it has been an honor to walk the spiritual path with you and to serve you. I see our beloved spiritual home growing from strength to strength. So, quote, let us not grow weary, unquote. Now more than ever, this community and indeed Jamaica needs your consciousness of peace, abundance, integrity, love, and service. So dress up and show up. You will indeed reap at harvest time if you do not give up. Abundant love and blessings. John.
Reverend John, I'd be very remiss if I didn't use this opportunity to express my own views on your sojourn with us. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season for everything under heaven. A time to laugh, a time to cry. No, this is not a time to cry, but we like to tell you how much we appreciate all that you have done. We recognize you as a strong, strategic leader who gave this temple your best shot. And I feel that everyone here will agree with me that this temple has really moved on to your dynamism. And we certainly wish for you all of God's blessing. We wish for you success and prosperity. And we look forward to seeing you in other places doing greater, even greater things. So we love you, and we bless you, and we bless your way forward, knowing God be with you in all that you do, and in all its glory.
Thank you, Lascelles.
So we thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Sonia, please be brief.
Breathe. Breathe. Reverend John, most of what you do is not highly visible. Many of us may not be aware that you can't hear me?
Yes,
You
we're
want to
hearing
see
you.
my face or you
Yes,
can't
we're
hear me?
hearing you.
Okay,
Just please.
okay. Thank you. She just mischievous. It's my schoolmate, right? No, I like it. This matches my uniform. This
Moving
is
right along.
okay. So, what I would like to say is that you have been the most tremendous leader, whether it be spiritual or otherwise, I have been exposed to, and I have been exposed to many groups. You have been diligent in meeting the needs of your ministerial team, your practitioner team, and you have met it with, yes, candor, but always with love, unconditional love, and allowed us to express ourselves, and then you move on, right, as we do, and have taught us also to move on. I can tell you that our group that meets regularly on Mondays will miss your leadership, but we'll also miss you as a beautiful human being. Also, I know that the New Thought ministers who meet on Thursdays will miss you, but they will continue to reach out to you individually. There is no way that you cannot be a part of our lives after 20 years or more of meeting together, chewing together, wrangling together, always looking, putting the temple's interests collectively, and even individuals within the temple we want to pray of specially. You have given us an opportunity and an example that I'm sure we'll take into the small groups that we go, we attend, and I know that we need all of the people. He has taught us to love in such a way to be inclusive and to build a safe place so that everybody can feel comfortable to come and to contribute. He says he's not going to come physically for a while, but he'll come online. That's good.
Thank you, Rev.
That's going to be a challenge. But don't stop me. I have one last sentence to
I
say.
have a meeting that it has
I
to
have
move
one
forward.
last sentence to say. He has been here for 20 odd years. It deserves for me to say how I feel. I love you, Reverend John. I love you deeply. And you have taught me to love too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia.
Is this a question for Reverend John, Reverend Michael? But you have two.
It's not a question.
It's
It's
2
not a
minutes.
question.
2 minutes.
No. I just wanted us all to thank him. Reverend John has spent many, many years on stage, and he knows what a standing ovation is.
There you go.
I would like us to give him some.
Thank you.
For he's a jolly good fellow. For he's a jolly good fellow. He's a jolly good fellow. He's a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us.
Thank you, Rev. Thank you. Can I have a motion for the adoption of Reverend John report? Boy, Christine, hand shut up first around the back. Seconded. Boy, Karen was in front of you, Yvonne. Never mind. And I've not seen Reverend Ann. Sorry. Osh.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you again, Reverend John. Awesome. And on that high note, I'd now like to invite our auditor. This is Victoria Bernard from Victoria Bernard Chartered Accountants to present our report.
think it has all been said, but I wouldn't feel complete walking out of here this afternoon without adding my word of thanks to Reverend John. This is an annual general meeting like none other. It's the beginning, it's an end of an era and the beginning of another. And personally, Reverend John, I shall miss your vim, your vigor, your vitality, and your vivacity. But I am assured that your legacy lives on. Thank you for taking the torch and keeping it lit for 20 years. We love you, we appreciate you, and we bless you as you move into your new endeavors.
Thank you for being the other V in my life.
Thank you. Now to the matters at hand. Good afternoon, Temple members. As is customary, and as is requested by the Temple current Companies Act of Jamaica, it is my duty to read the auditor's report. And I begin. Independent Auditor's Report to the members of Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living. Report on the audit of the financial statements. I have audited the financial statements of the Temple of Light for Spiritual Living set out on pages 4 to 24, which comprise the statement of financial position as of 30 June 2022, and the statement of comprehensive income, statement of changes in equity, and cash flow statement for the year then ended, and a summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. In my opinion, the accompanying financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of the Temple as of 30th June 2022 and of its financial performance and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with International Financial Reporting Principles, IFRS. I just pause for a minute to point out that what I have just read indicate a clean audit report for the Temple. There are absolutely no reservations about that. Basis of opinion. I conducted my audit in accordance with the International Standards on Auditing, ISAS. My responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibility for the audit of the financial statements section of my report. I'm independent of the Temple in accordance with the International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants, Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, in bracket, IESBA code. And I have fulfilled my other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the IESBA code. I believe that the audit evidence I have attained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for my opinion. Management's responsibility for the financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation of financial statements that give a true and fair view in accordance with IFRS and the Jamaica Companies Act, and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of financial statements that are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the financial statements, management is responsible for assessing the Temple's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing as applicable matters relating to going concern, and using the going concern basis of accounting unless management either thinks either intends to liquidate the temple or to cease operation, or has no realistic alternative but to do so. Management is responsible for overseeing the temple's financial reporting process. Auditor's responsibility for audit of the financial statements. My objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an audit report that includes my opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit concluded in accordance with ISAS will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatement can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if, individually or in aggregate, they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of users taken on the basis of these financial statements. As part of an audit, in accordance with ISAS, I exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. I also, bullet point, identify and assess the risk of material misstatements of the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error. Design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for my opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than one resulting from error, as fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omissions, misrepresentations, or the override of internal control. Bullet point. Obtain an understanding of internal control relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the temple's internal control. Bullet point. Evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates and related disclosure made by management. Bullet point. Conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of the going concern basis of accounting, and based on the audit evidence obtained, whether a material uncertainty exists relating to events or conditions that may cause significant doubt on the temple's ability to continue as a going concern. If I conclude that a material uncertainty exists, I'm required to draw attention in my auditor's report to the related disclosures in the financial statements, or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify my opinion. My conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of my auditor's report. However, future events or conditions may cause the temple to cease to continue as a going concern. Bullet point. To evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the financial statements, including the disclosure, and whether the financial statements represent the underlying transactions and events in a manner that presents a true and fair view. Report on additional matters as required by the Jamaican Companies Act. I have obtained all the information and explanation which, to the best of my knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of my audit. In my opinion, proper accounting records have been maintained so far as appears from my examination of those records, and the financial statements which are in agreement therewith give the information required by the Jamaica Companies Act in the manner required. Signed, Victoria Bernard, Chartered Accountant, 7th October 2022. So ladies and gentlemen, that's your audit report. It is clean. And as I have stated, I got all the information and evidence I required. I think there were times when I would call up Janet and she would get a little annoyed with me asking her too much question, but never mind. She gave me what I needed and we managed to complete the account on time. Thank you, Janet. Thank you also, Reverend Ann, who has been a great support in getting this audit done. So the financial statement was sent out prior to this meeting. I think you have all taken a look at it, and pretty soon you can ask your questions. I'm just going to run through point out a few areas that are of interest, particularly to me, and which you might also find interesting. And so I'm looking at the Statement of Comprehensive Income. And if you take a look at that, between 2021 and 2022, you will see that the offering increased 5% from 8,426,000 to 8,848,000 in that period. And total comprehensive income moved from 10,257 to 12,031, which adds up to about 17% increase. Administrative expenses, on the other hand, decreased a little bit. In 2021, it was 12.485 million. In 2022, it was 11.852 million. And so, in this year being reported on, we moved from a loss of 2.2 million in 2021 to a surplus of 185,735. Now, that's no mean feat, and I think you should give the country a round of applause. Last year, when I stood here, many of you might have perceived that I was a great concern for the continuity of the temple from a financial aspect. And I am happy standing here this afternoon to realize that things have really progressed somewhat, and being assured that if this continues, then improve, not just continue at present level, but improve as we create and manifest, then the temple is on a good trajectory. I'm now looking at the statement of financial position. And as you can see on that's on page 5, Paulette. And as you can see on that, the first thing that appears on that is property, plant, and equipment. No, property, plant, and equipment was reduced from one year to the next. In 2021, it was 6.4 million. In 2022, it's 6.2. There is nothing there to worry about, because in every year, there's the natural process of depreciation. And depreciation last year was 400, and if I remember correctly, 435,000, as set against an increase. Additions, are you hearing me, Faye? Yes, we had depreciation of $435,000 as against additions to fixed assets of only 213. So that difference of 222.5 that is reflected in property, plant, and equipment is due to the depreciation. And depreciation covers the wear and tear of any assets except land over time. So you are always going to have that. We have no control over that. You will also see that current asset, total current asset, reduced a little bit. It was 1.9 in 2021, and it went to 1.8 in 2022. And that is partially due to the fact that the cash
that we have also went down a bit from 1.4 to 1.3. Notwithstanding that, the liquidity ratio, which is the current liability to current asset to current liability, improved significantly and went up to actually to 2.43 in 2022 to 1, which is a very good ratio. However, I would say to you that given the economic, and what that ratio measures is the temple's ability to pay its liabilities as they become due. So if we look at it strictly from the standpoint of 2022, we say, okay, fine, we are in a good position. But given the fact that current assets are low and the current economic conditions that every institution face, we need to continue to manage our assets and our liabilities very meticulously to ensure that we remain on this trajectory. As you go down, further down, I want to point out the line that comes after capital, accumulated deficit. Now in 2021, we had a deficit, well, it's accumulated surplus / deficit. And in 2021, we had a deficit of 31,578. Please note that in this year, that is saying a surplus of 146,948. Again, this is one of the when I'm assessing an organization ability as a going concern, one of the things we take into consideration is whether or not there is shareholders, not only cash flow deficits, but whether or not there's shareholder deficit. So last year that was very prominent in my mind. This year, however, we don't have a shareholders deficit, we don't have a cash flow deficit, so things are looking better than they were last year. Again, as you go further down, you will see we had a small overdraft, which impact the level of cash we have, but it's nothing to get panicky about. And you would also notice that our payables and accruals, and payables is what we owe, is less than it has been in prior year. So that's my comments. I am here available and ready to take your questions if you have any. Yes? I'm glad she sent you up here because I wasn't hearing what you were saying.
No, this might not be a very intelligent question, but I need to find out for myself. When you say assets I know the asset really can't help the everyday running, but why doesn't the asset, the value of our property be shown on a statement?
Well, from my perspective, it makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
Let me tell you why it makes no sense.
Okay.
Yes, the balance sheet would look a lot better.
I know.
But why it don't make any sense? Valuing a property such as this, which is extremely valuable, will cost us millions of dollars.
Oh.
Right? And we do not intend to sell it, and we are not going to the bank to borrow any money. So why do we spend that money for nothing?
But you don't know. You might have to, you don't know.
No, well, if a decision is taken to go to the bank to borrow money, or if a decision is taken to sell all or a part of it, then at that stage a decision can be taken to value the property. But at this stage, all it does is dress up the balance sheet. And as I said, you're going to, huh?
Well, you see, I didn't know it had cost, but I think...
And it's going to cost you millions of dollars, because
Okay.
this property, don't fool yourself, 2.5 acres of prime land in this area could worth almost 8 to 10 million US. So we are actually sitting on a lot of money right here. But from my perspective, it makes absolutely no sense to value it unless at this time.
All right.
Yes, Mr. Courtney.
Greetings. I think this question came up at some previous meeting, and there are some other perspectives to look that you can use to look at it.
You mean the question of valuing? That's what you're referring to?
Yeah, because the way how we are thinking about investment now, we are not thinking about, people are talking about the value of this property, but we are not doing anything to, Mr. Orion hinted at it, about the iconic value. The value of this place is, is really an iconic thing, but we have not touched that thing here. But let me tell you why I'm saying this thing.
Can you do me a favor? Take your mask off and speak. You're coming across muffled for me.
Okay. The U.S. Embassy, I had the privilege, they had a property about this size here, of the 10 acre. And a consular officer who was in an apartment in Manhattan went to Japan and came, after he went to Japan, he came to Jamaica and he told me, Mr. Johnson, can you believe I am on a property of this size and I used to live in an apartment? He asked me the question, do you know how much a property of about exact size out of a 10 acre? How much a property like this costs in Tokyo, Japan? $3 billion US he wanted me to be conscious of. And I'm saying that people from over the world, if they discover, I want us to be more cognizant of the value of the property that we have.
We are.
I don't think so.
I just said that
because
at current market value, it values somewhere between 8 to 10 million US Jamaican price values, not Japanese.
And people are not even walking, the members are not even walking on the ground to express their appreciation for the property.
Courtney, is there
It's
You
okay.
don't have to walk on the ground. You just have to walk in this morning and look at those beautiful array of flowers with the sunshine on it, and you give God thanks for being just part of this space. As I walked in this morning, I slowed to appreciate the beauty of it. The beauty. I already know the value. Yes, Karen, go ahead.
I just want to say one thing simply. I have looked at the title to this property. There is a caveat on it that no part of the property may be sold. That's the caveat which has been stamped and signed by the government of Jamaica. So we can talk all we want, understand this is FIWI, we can't sell it, we can't cut it up, okay? So can we put that whole discussion, argument, to rest? Beloved, bless you.
You know, last year during our AGM, there were the energy was a little bit low because we had seen a picture of us not doing so well. I know that we put a lot of prayer work out there, and it is now demonstrating as a more favorable looking state of our financial affairs. I think that's a big wow and a big opportunity to celebrate. I believe that as much as, gotta get in the gooses, as Jennifer Lopez will talk, as much as we are going to miss our beloved, you know, I feel like my heart tearing. I'm always also believing that this is great opportunity for us. We have some powerful energies in this room, and we are now getting our database established. We are just like, I feel like we're in a catapult, and the catapult let go, and the trajectory is far and it's high. And that may sound philosophical, but we know we have to start with an energy and a passion and a sense of it is done. And so say all of us.
Yes, Val, you can come up. And thank you, Sandra. We all know that creation begins in beingness. Not what we say, but who we are being. And that creates the energy that Sandra is. Come on.
Okay, just a suggestion, which may or may not make sense, but couldn't we put a note on the value and at the bottom say, this is not an official value, something like that, just to draw attention to it. On the balance sheet, no?
No, under our accounting rules, what goes in the financial statement has to be, it would have had to be valued by a chartered surveyor, land valuator, somebody who has the capacity and the education to do a correct valuation.
So this $6 million is not including this other assets?
That $6 million include the land. It does.
It does.
But when the land was purchased, if I remember correctly, it might have been about 20. Exactly. And that is the original cost. There's no valuation. Huh?
Could we put at cost?
Well,
just something to point out.
The assets is always stated at cost. If you look at note, I think it's note 3.
If it's in a note, then that's fine.
In the financial statement, it says at cost.
Okay.
Right.
Second question.
But to state it at valuation, an actual valuation has to be carried out by someone who is supposed to do that. I couldn't just put a figure there out of my head.
No, I'm just suggesting that, just to say that it's not a thing. Okay. Second question. The 4 million. The 4 million other expenses. Is there a breakdown of it anywhere?
4 million. Where was that?
On page.
The expenses.
Yeah, the expenses.
The expenses
on page 18.
Page 25.
Page 18 on the top of the expenses.
4 million?
Yeah.
4 million.
Other expenses.
There's nothing there for 4 million.
Expenses by nature. Expenses by nature. Yes, this one.
Oh. Okay. So page 25 give you a detail.
Of the expenses.
Page 25 of the financial statement give you a detail of what make up the 11,850. Hold on, the 11,582. So what you get by expenses of nature is just those expenses that we are required by the Jamaicans Company Act to highlight, and everything else is bought. No, I got that. But what I'm saying, the expenses by nature, there are certain expenses that we are required to highlight, and then everything else is bought. So the 4 million you're referring to is bought to incorporate all of these that were not highlighted. But under the Companies Act, we are not. There are certain things we are supposed to send to us this year. It's not the full financial statement. But you can come, you can go to Janet, and she can show you that if you require. Yes, Reverend John.
Just a quick thing. I was walking the labyrinth one afternoon, and a guy drove in one of them BMW X6 or 600 or whatever, and said, "Good evening." I said hello. He said, "How much? Are you in charge of this place?" I said, "Yes." He said, "How much you want for it?" I said, "Well, it's not for sale." He said, "Oh no, my uncle. Let me just tell you something. Everything in the world is for sale." Who are the owner? I can talk to him. So I just did this. Hear him, Lord God is a church.
Good one. Good.
Thank you.
Good one. If there are no other questions for our auditor, can I have a motion? She was page 18 that she was referring to.
No, now page 25. To say that, explain that they don't send out all of the
It was understood that all the report is not sent out, but if you want to see the details on page 25, visit the office and Mrs. Morris Henry will allow you to see it. So I'd like to move for the motion to adopt.
Sorry, a very quick question. You mentioned in terms of it not really value added in doing these valuation at this time, but is there value added in doing it periodically, and is there any interval that you would recommend for the
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to spend, say, $4 million for something that all it's going to do is make the balance sheet look a little pretty?
No, well, I'm not.
Would you be willing to pay for that $4 or $5 million?
Well, I'm not looking just at the balance sheet, but I'm looking at the fact that we can't sell it. But does the covenant prevent us from, for example, we're thinking of upgrading or adding, let's say we have, can you? Right, so we may want to do that.
When the time comes, and she question is, are you willing to undertake paying for it? So until you answer affirmatively, we are not
certainly.
You have a commitment here from Tamu that she
no,
would
if
be
I
willing
would
to.
Be, me personally,
because you have raised the question.
I'd be willing to contribute to it. Yes.
The rest of us are not feeling that way.
Don't see any reason to spend that money for no particular benefit.
The benefit is knowing this information when we're doing a lot of our planning. Some of these things you can put into your plan for the church as a part of our strategic planning. Could be something that we look 10 years down, this is the vision we have because of the valuation of our property.
It's never going to be sold. So you will never have need to value it. It's never going to be sold.
Yes, you're not going to sell, but I may borrow money
I'm
against
going to wrap
it.
this right now. As chair, I'm going to exercise that right. We're not valuing this property at this point in time. And until someone comes forward and said, I'm paying out of pocket, please value the property. It's okay. Somebody may want to generously do so. I invite you to do it. It doesn't matter. All I'm saying is we are not moving forward on that note unless you are coming forward to pay it. Reverend says if the idea comes through you, then Reverend Elmer always says if the idea comes through you, then run with it. I encourage you, for all those who would like to have the valuation, run with it. I'd like to move the motion for the adoption of the auditor's report. So moved. All right, Reverend Ann. So moved by Reverend Ann. Reverend John, you're seconding. Reverend John seconded. And
thank you all so very much.
Thank you. But as she moves from there, the other item right behind that is the appointment of auditors. And I'd like to move the motion for the reappointment of Victoria Bernard, Chartered Accountant, as our auditors for the next period. So moved by Reverend Ann, seconded by Sandy. So Victoria, you have been all in favor? Any against? No. You've been unanimously reappointed as our auditor, and your report has also passed. Thank you so much for the work that you do. Yes.
I can't say thanks, Miss Bernard.
That's all right. Despite the trouble Janet give her, let me put that in. We love you, Vinty. Thank you. And now another item that we are all been waiting for is our election of directors. Friends, we're at that point. I want you to know that first and foremost, Mr. Theo Smith is the director who is up for retiring this year, and he is willing to serve if so re-elected. So I'd like to move that motion. Who is moving that? Theo? Boy, Reverend, and you're nominating yourself without the chair acknowledging you. Vance is in the back. I'm giving that movement to Vance. And I'm seconding it by Paulette Joseph. And all in favor? Aye. Theo is duly re-elected. And Paulette seconded. So now we have 3 vacancies that has to be filled. Firstly, you would have heard that Mrs. Maureen Burrows had to resign due to conflict of interest. So there is her vacancy. And in addition, Mrs. Jean Barnes has said that she will not continue serving due to other commitments at this time. So she's still willing to lend her expertise to the temple, but she is not willing to continue serving on the board. So that's her second vacancy. And we have always had an outstanding vacancy on the board. So hence the need for 3 vacancies to be filled today. We had sent out for nominations prior to this, and we have received nominations. 3 nominations. And at this time, I will share with you the names of persons who have indicated their willingness to serve on the board. The nominees are, firstly, Mr. Paul Chisholm, member of the Temple of Light, came up through our Sunday school and young adults. He's also the son of Mrs. Chisholm, who is sitting here patiently this evening, staring with us. He has indicated, Paul is a businessman. He is the operator and managing director of the name of the pharmacy, Meadowbrook Pharmacy, and they also now have a branch in the center, the transport center. So they have 2 locations. He ably runs that organization. The only thing Mrs. Chisholm does is be the licensed pharmacist right now in there. So all decisions are run by Paul, and he's supported by Sophie, who is his sister, who is also another temple member. So we're putting forward Mr. Paul Chisholm as a nominee for the board. Before we make any decisions or vote, I'm also going to give you the names of the other nominees. He was nominated by Reverend Anshant. The member nominating the next proposed nominee for the board, it is hereby proposed that Dr. Tamu Davidson be appointed as a member of the board, nominated by Reverend Sonia Davidson. As you know, Dr. Tamu Davidson is a practitioner here at the center. She is also with the Ministry of Health, currently on secondment to Trinidad. In the capacity of, Tamu, please tell me? Okay, you're at the Caribbean. Oh, she's at the Caribbean Public Health Agency in Trinidad, and as the assistant director of surveillance, disease, and COVID. Okay, so that's a second nominee to the board, and she. And you return to Jamaica when?
In December, well, physically to Jamaica the end of December, and January I go back to the Ministry of Health. So.
Okay, so you will be on the ground as of January. Okay, and second and third, she was nominated by Sonia Davidson, Reverend Sonia Davidson. And thirdly, the next nominee we have is Mrs. Christine King. And when I read these, I just want you to know that each of these persons have signed in their acknowledgement that they're willing to be nominated, okay? And they're paid up members, all 3 names given so far. Christine, as you know, is a member of our tech support team. She's doing our LoveStream. She is a journalist by trade, by profession. And she is she's currently producing our Temple magazine, and what's it called again? The newsletter, yes, that's the magazine he's referred to. And she's a member of the Reverend Elmer Publishers Group as well, and very active here at the center. She has unfortunately had to leave, but she's also duly being nominated and she has signed, given her consent to be nominated to the position. So we have 3 persons. Are there any nominees from the floor? I'm willing to take that. Christine was nominated by Reverend Dr. Sonia Davidson as well. Okay. So she has 2 persons who she has nominated who have consented, Reverend Ann Shan. Are there any nominations from the floor? Yes? No, that's all right. You look
Yes,
good.
I just want to say thank you very much, and I am really pleased that we have now started using the congregation or the members to choose members for the board. I think this is the first time that we have done that. I think the board, well, I have never known that.
No, Faye. Every year we do this.
Every year you do this?
Yes. When we nominated Christina Carty and Bevar moved it to the board.
Well, I apologize. I always thought
it
it came from the board. They were the ones that selected people. All right.
That's one of the myths that we are demystifying. Yes? Right, so the board would appoint people during the year who is sitting out a term. That would be the only time that the board does that. So if there are no further nominations, ladies, can you just wait for us to do the vote? We'd at least like to know. Do I have any other nominations from the floor? No. And if so, I'd like to move a motion for appointment of Mr. Paul Chisholm to the board. He's nominated by Reverend Ann. And on block, all in favor? Aye. Any against? All 3 of them. I'm moving the motion for Dr. Tamu Davidson. All in favor? Yeah. Any against? And Christine King. All right, on block, all 3 have been duly nominated to the board. Congratulations. Yes, Reverend Ann, what's your question?
Well, finally we have some more young people rather than few.
Yes, let us clap that. We do have the youth in the form of Tamu and Dr. Tamu Davidson and Mr. Paul Chisholm. So yes, we have a blend of youth and seniors. That would be you, Janet. That's all right. That's okay. What we do need us to keep the ship steady. Having moved on from election of directors, our next item would be any other business.
You dealt with it already.
Oh, it was dealt with? Any other business? I think I dealt with the one for having the action items. That was dealt with. And so, yes, Victoria. Any other business? Ladies, the meeting is still in session over there. Excuse me. Reverend Sonia. Yes.
I would like to make the suggestion that the ministers who are not senior minister, who is not, be invitees to the council meetings.
Yes, so in this year, Reverend Ann will be the invitee at the board meetings, yes.
But not just Reverend Ann, but all the licensed ministers.
Oh, to the council? Oh.
Well,
when the council is formed.
Okay.
Yes, when the council is formed. Yes. Oh, that's any other business. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Council. Are there any other business? Before I move to the vote of thanks, I have one other item. Please go ahead. Paulette Joseph has asked, as a member from the floor, to say something, and Lauren, you're supposed to cue her for something. Paulette, please go ahead. You're ready?
Yes, Paulette.
He has it on his phone. Lauren has it on his phone, and he's going to send it to the TV screen. Okay, so while he's queuing that up, we just want to to do that before we move to the vote of thanks. Mr. Chung is lined up for that. Ready? Thank you, Paulette. Reverend John, that was very special. You raised me up so I could stand on mountains. You raised me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. Raise me up more than I can be. You raised me up so I can stand on mountains. Ladies and gentlemen, with the 148 and the Andron. Thank you so much. Dennis, I'd like you, ladies and gentlemen, please, we have to close this meeting properly, so you still have to give me 2 minutes. Dennis to do the vote of thanks, then I'll move the adjournment for the closing. So let's go. Thank you, Dennis.
Before I begin the vote of thanks, I'd just like to thank Reverend John for being the person that he is. We went to school together, and I've seen him develop over the years, and he really is a shining light. I'd like to thank everybody for coming to the to the to the AGM, and I'd like to thank Victoria Bernard for the financial statements. I'd like to thank the tech team for doing their good work as usual, and for those who did the hospitality earlier on, and I'd like to thank our Master of Ceremonies for keeping it going as good as she did. Thank you.
Thank you. And I am going to ask Reverend Anne to do the closing affirmative prayer, but before you do, let me just move for the adjournment. Come pray, Rev. Come. I want the prayer first. Let's pray it out.
No, the law says you must adjourn the meeting.
Exactly, that's my point. So I have to adjourn the meeting. Motion for the adjournment of the meeting. So move. All right, Victoria, seconded by Dennis Strong. All in favor? Aye. Any against? No, and with that, we have duly adjourned the meeting. Thank you all for being here and for staying with us this long. Reverend Anne, closing affirmative prayer.
Rev, well, everybody has said everything. I'm his assistant, and for me to be able to stay and hold this place until our new senior minister comes is worthy of the kind of man, Reverend John. He has seen me through my growth, and he's my friend, my confidant, and you know. But thank God he's one mind, so when I blink, I will get in touch with Reverend John. So, you know, it is not that he's going, he's beside me, supports me, so if any little thing I can call him, so that's where I am right now. Oh, and it's in this consciousness of pure love that I say and speak these words over this spiritual community as we close another annual general meeting, the participation, the cooperation, and indeed it is worthy because we are so all committed to this vision and mission of our temple, this beautiful temple of light that transforms lives. Anyone who comes into contact with us, and indeed this property, is touched into wholeness. And we truly give thanks for the opportunity for each one of us that we have found our spiritual home. And it's our home and forever will be our spiritual home. And we give thanks for that. We give thanks for our ancestors, the little ladies with Reverend Elmer who has placed the mantle on Reverend John. And indeed, as we await this new minister, I know it's our consciousness of pure love that will attract the right and perfect individual. So all is indeed well. As the universe, our law works all the time. So it's in that consciousness that I know that as we go to our separate assignments, each one of us, we are blessed. We carry this love, this fellowship, this stewardship, knowing that as we serve God, we serve each other. And wherever we find ourselves, the grace of God provides every good thing for each one of us. So I know that we have placed ourselves on this journey to allow ourselves to be the hands and feet of Almighty God. And indeed, we are blessed. We are a blessing to this entire island and indeed the very cosmos. Thank you, CSL. Thank you, Temple of Light, for who you are and what you are to all of us. And it's truly as we go with God's blessing, we are indeed loved and beloved. I release my word to law and know that it is so, and so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Anne. Thank you all for being here. Get home with God.